Hi everyone, my name is Omar and I want to show you this newspaper clipping. This isn't just any newspaper clipping, it's a clipping from an Egyptian newspaper called Al-Ahramat, which is Arabic for the pyramids. This clipping came from a newspaper that came out on January 17, 1945, the exact day that the first Egyptian revolution occurred. During the summer, I traveled to Egypt to see my grandpa and grandma, and they had a bunch of super old scraps in the basement, from airline tickets going from Orlando to Cairo, to bank statements, to even my grandfather's American citizenship flag. The first unit in the art course I take at school was collage, and we're supposed to collect pieces of paper with interesting textures for preparation. So discovering the old dusty boxes in my grandparents' basement in Cairo was a miracle. Luckily, they let me take whatever I wanted, so I went through the piles of paper that broke away from the crumbling boxes, scavenging and hunting for anything and everything grainy, and I found this newspaper clipping. It's so cool to own because, in a sense, I own part of Egyptian history. Not only that, but a quick search on eBay revealed that similar newspapers from the 40s are worth a good amount of money. Right now, I own something pretty valuable, personally and monetarily. Now, what if I told you that this newspaper actually came from an issue, this newspaper clipping actually came from an issue that came out last month, and you can take as many issues as you want for free? What if I told you that this newspaper clipping's headline actually translates to 10 photos of downtown that you've never seen before? What if I told you that this newspaper clipping has no relationship to the Egyptian Revolution whatsoever, and as a matter of fact, the Egyptian Revolution didn't occur on January 17, 1945, it happened during July 1952. What if I told you that the only reason I decided to say it came out on January 17 was because my birthday's on the same day, and I thought that the year 1945 sounded more appealing? What if I told you that this clipping didn't come from my grandparents' basement in Cairo because they don't have a basement, and their house in Cairo, which I didn't visit this year because they don't have a house in Cairo in the first place? What if I told you that this newspaper clipping, if it did come from a newspaper in the 40s, would be worth only $5.99? What if I told you I'm not from Egypt? I'm just kidding, I am quite Egyptian. This leads me to the true topic of this talk, which is why I just automatically decided to trust me. More specifically, why do people trust strangers, and what does that mean for us as a society? From such an early age, my mother told me about stranger danger and made sure I understood it, and understood to never talk to a guy in a white van asking me if I wanted candy. But how come in the less stereotypical idea of what a stranger is, do we not only believe them, but we trust what they say? For example, when you're lost and in the middle of nowhere, no map, online or physical, and you're in your car with nowhere to go, who do you turn to? Random people, passerby, locals, and strangers. The thing is, we know nothing about them. They could be bad people, but for some reason we trust them. We trust them enough to listen to what they've got to say regarding how to get to a certain destination, which there's a chance they have no clue about. We trust them, and we trust the directions they're giving us, even though they might make me even more lost. Why do we trust strangers? Why do we trust strangers when we've specifically been taught not to? And a lot of the time we trust strangers more than our actual friends sometimes. Going back to eBay, how do you know that the seller you're buying that vintage 40s newspaper from is actually going to sell it to you? How do you know that you might not receive anything in your mailbox after you've been charged on your credit card? eBay runs completely on trust. In 2014, the American Psychological Association carried out a study, and a part of that study involved a bunch of behavioral tests on students from Cornell University and Cologne University in Germany. One of these tests is what they call the trust game, in which participants are given the chance to give $5 to a complete stranger. If they do give the $5, it's then quadrupled to equal $20, so the stranger now has $20. The stranger now has a choice. He or she can give back $10 to the original participant, or keep the full $20 for themselves. 54% of the participants said that they would give the $5, trusting that the stranger would share and give $10 back, and not keep the full $20 for themselves. This excessive and obsessive amount of trust might seem dangerous, which is what we've told ourselves, that trusting strangers is unsafe, yet it also makes our society much stronger than it would be without trust. Unknowingly, our communities, how big or how small, are pretty powerful. With a substantial bulk of conflict currently occurring in communities all over the world, those same communities are solid, and members of those communities are well connected, shown by our irrational, though sometimes beneficial, sense of trust. This underlying foundation has been recognized by several businesses, and as a result, there's a bunch of different services being created on the basis of trust. I already talked about eBay, but Airbnb works the same way, in which strangers rely on other strangers for a home. When considering the number of rooms a hotel offers, Airbnb offers the highest amount, 6 million, and therefore can be thought of as the largest hotel chain in the entire world. That's 6 million rooms and a $30 million company worth, all dependent on the trust of strangers. The same applies to other businesses who have realized that trust is a highly prevalent system that runs in societies all over the world, and they've used this to their advantage. Sorry for not moving. What? Obviously, the system isn't bulletproof. A lot of the time, it can be dangerous to trust strangers. In fact, a lot of you guys might be aware of this. In fact, 1 in 5 Americans believe that they wouldn't necessarily trust strangers. However, what we believe isn't necessarily reflected in the way we act. A lot of the time, we throw trust in the air, whether dangerous or not, and this lets us know that somehow, on some type of level, we have a firm society. Businesses have acknowledged this and acted upon this, and as a result, the cycle continues and we trust strangers even more. So when you maybe decide to have kids one day, or you already do have kids, talk to them about stranger danger and why we shouldn't trust strangers, but don't expect them to actually listen. We didn't listen. Every day, for the better or for the worse, we trust strangers, and it's become part of our lives whether we like it or not. Thank you.